So my 74 Super Beetle is in desperate need of some new front strut inserts. I wasn't actually going to film this process because it's very unexciting. I actually put new front struts in my green goober about 3.5 years ago and filmed that, and I still haven't uploaded the video, but the suspension work on the Super Beetle always seems to get a fairly positive response, so what the hell. Both sides have actually gone, and it's my fault completely, nothing to do with the car or the struts. To fit those big 17-inch wheels on it, I have to have top-line max struts in it, and they're getting a bit old now. They were actually one of the very first sets of max struts that John at Topline sent to Australia, and back in those days he was using Bogue oil inserts. He's now switched to gas, I've noticed, the KYB XLGs. Anyway, as a lot of people know, due to the small diameter springs that the max struts use to clear those big wheels, the standard dust sleeve doesn't fit anymore, and that's not normally a problem for the vast majority of people, but it is for me because I live out in the country and drive on some very shitty roads, and some of it dirt too. And the problem I have is without the dust sleeve, all the dirt and grit and shit like that is just getting down into the strut and just chewing out the shaft seals. They've actually been leaking for probably over a year now, and I finally, just about a month ago, worked out a method to seal them off, which I've posted on Super Beetles only, but damage is already done, unfortunately. They sort of held it together for a while, but I went to a VW show a couple of weeks ago, and it was a about 3-hour trip, probably 250 kilometres each way, and that just tipped them over the edge. You can see my passenger side here, there is just oil spewed out of my wheel everywhere, and they've pretty much emptied themselves. I came out on the second day and there was a pool of oil under each front wheel. Volkswagens are notorious for marking their spot, but normally with the engine, not the front suspension. A car with dodgy shocks or struts is really not that safe to drive due to such uncontrolled rebound. So if you ever want to check your suspension, if you compress it down, you shouldn't get a rebound. It should just spring straight back up, and that's it. A sign of rooted shocks or struts is a little something like this, where my bug resembles a kid's jumpy, bouncy castle. With those wheels off, I can give you a better look at the problem. You can see there's just oil everywhere under here. It's been all leaking out there, running down the strut. You can see it's all in my ball joint there, along the control arm. Speedo cable, and obviously the wheel has been throwing it. And you can see it's all up under the guard everywhere, so looks like a degrease is in order when all this is done. But as for my solution for the dust sleeve, you can see the problem. That's a standard, a small diameter spring, not the standard red Topline Max, but as you can see, a lot smaller than the stock Super Beetle ones. So what I found was this stuff. It's air conditioning ducting hose, 45mm ID. It's got a wire coil in it, so it's nice and springy and tough. And that rubber's reasonably thick, so that'll keep all the dirt and shit out of the new inserts. So just got to whip them out of the car first. 3 bolts at the top and 3 at the bottom, and the obvious brake hose. So there's one very leaky strut in the vise. All I've done is just taken a little bit of tension off the spring with spring compressors. That's the only safe way to do this. Don't do a stupid trick like David Rock and do it without and think it's hilarious when the strut goes launching across the bloody field. So yeah, just got to buzz that nut off there, which can sometimes be problematic. I'll chuck the rattle gun on and see, but as you can see, the shaft spins with it, so sometimes it's just not possible. Alright, so a good shock is not supposed to do this. As you can imagine, that would do absolutely nothing on a car. And you can see the problem there. All the grit and shit, without any sort of seal over it like this hose, all the grit and shit goes straight down in there and just chews out the rubber seal. That's why all the oil is just leaking out of it, or leaked out of it. Not much left in there now. Now to get the insert out, on a stock strut, you can see there's an external cap. Topline have made these so that they're threaded internally, so it's easier to repair and disassemble. To undo these, I'd say the factory probably had tools which locked into that, but just a pair of Stilsons is usually the best trick to get them undone. Just put the strut in the vise and undo it. So there's a very dead old oil insert and the new gas one I've got to put in. Now just another reason for making this video is I just want to add some info about strut inserts that I see are a constant pitfall for people. Here's one of them right in front of us. When you use max struts, the insert actually needs some machining done. You can see it right there. Needs a bit machined off. Actually, if I bring it up like that, that's better. Bit machined down there. I don't know if you can see it in this light, but you can see that's at about 10mm or 3/8 of an inch machined off it. And there's a reason for that. The spring cups for the max struts are spun out of aluminium, and that's how thick they are. Well, almost. Somewhere here I have a stock one. Here it is. So you can see a standard one is just pressed steel and very thin, only about 2mm thick, compared to the aluminium one, which is about 10mm. So if you were to try and put a max strut together without machining that down, the nut that holds the top together would only have a couple of threads done up, very unsafe, and the nylock part wouldn't engage. So I now have to probably void the warranty on my new ones and machine that down to match that one. Just to illustrate the problem a bit further, I've put that together with the spring hat, the spacer and the upper strut bearing. You can see there really isn't much thread sticking through. The nylock nuts are quite thick, so that upper locking nylock part just wouldn't engage. Just as a comparison, there's the old Max strut, and you can see how much further it sticks through. And here's the other thing that catches a lot of people out. Folks don't realise how many different varieties of strut inserts there are when talking Volkswagens. All different lengths. Starting out with the blue Bogue one there. That's the longest, which is from the first series of Super Beetles. The 3-bolt suspension ones, given their name because of the 3 bolts at the bottom obviously. They're the longer ones. They went from when they started in 71 up till mid 73. Then they swapped to the front end borrowed from Porsche 944, 924, or other way around, it borrowed it from Super Beetle, which has the 2-bolt and an obvious we'll say 3-inch difference there, which is this one. A little bit shorter, and I've seen people buy them by mistake and fit them in the 3-bolt struts with a piece of pipe or metal or something dropped in the bottom to take the gap up. Very dodgy, and as you can see, they also have a huge section there machined down, unlike the other ones. That's due to the bump stop design. And finally, this last shortest one on the right here, you can see is just about an inch shorter than the 2-bolt Super Beetle one. This is actually from a Mark 1 Golf, or Rabbit as they're known in the States. These are the inserts which are fitted to pretty much all your adjustable lowered struts. Because they're just that little bit shorter, they give more suspension travel on a lowered car, so that's why they use them in lowered struts. I have seen people make the mistake of buying the 2-bolt ones and then find out they're about an inch too long and don't fit. So yeah, if you've got the adjustable struts from Top Line or MP, or I don't know who else makes them, the Kirscher mob in the Germany probably do as well. That's the inserts that will be in them from a Mark 1 Golf. One really important step when installing new shock absorbers or strut inserts is to cycle them. They sit in a compressed state, as you can see by the left one there, for transit, just to keep them packed in short boxes. And the problem is if you don't cycle them for a bit before you install them, they stay spongy. I usually just do it for about 30 seconds at least, just push the shaft down. And the beauty with gas inserts is they extend back out on their own. Oil ones are a pain in the arse because they don't extend back out, so you have to pull them back out. So yeah, to do that just bleeds any air to the top. I made the mistake of not doing that enough when I put the new struts in the goober, and as a result now, when it sits for a couple of days, the first bounce on the suspension is very soft and spongy till it cycles the air to the top. Look at that old one sitting there. You can actually see the oil bubbling out of it. It's got a big chewed out spot on the seal. So the tops of the shafts are machined down now. One of the final things I like to do before assembling these struts is, you'll notice the inserts are not a neat fit in the housing. There's a bit of movement there. Top Line do give centering rings that sit in the bottom, and they help to a degree, but it's still not perfect. So the one thing I like to do is put a layer of gaffer tape or Gorilla Tape, which is the strong braided stuff, not ordinary duct tape. and build up a layer around so it's a nice snug fit in the housing, just to help keep it that bit more firm. So it's all back together now, and I've just been for a quick road test, and truly it is unbelievable the difference that rooted shocks and new replacement ones can make to a car's handling. You wouldn't think that with them still cycling in and out as they're meant to, just very softly, could have such an effect. The car got to the point of feeling too dangerous to drive with the old ones. Now it just feels so much better. It's not bouncing all over the roads when I hit a bump. So now I've been for a road test. One thing I like to do is just jack it back up and check the tension on all the bolts I've had undone. So now with nice new strut inserts in actual functioning condition, it's going to rebound a lot less and be much firmer. No more super fun, happy time, children's bouncy castle effect.